Hey guys, thanks for joining me. So it's time for us to get a new dining room table, and we've had all this leftover flooring from when we put our floors in. Now, this flooring is kind of the rejects, so we're going to have to deal with that, but we think we can make a farm table out of all these planks. So we tried to pick out the best looking wood, which is kind of hard because they all have some sort of defects, whether it be checks, whether it be splits, and none of them are really even thicknesses. So we're going to have to fight through that, but in the end we got through it. So we picked out the best ones, and we were measuring to find our length. I think it's 42 inches. And now we lay them out by color. And we want them to look good, not be too one color or the other. So I numbered all of them to make sure we get the right pattern we're looking for. So as I said, they're not even thicknesses, so we're planing them down. Alright, so since this is flooring, they both have a tongue and a groove. So the end pieces are going to have to be flat, so we're just cutting the groove and the tongue off both of the end pieces that are going to be the sides. So once we did that, we're putting them all together, and we're going to get ready to attach them all. Now normally you'd use biscuits or dowels or something fancy like that, but we're going to try using pocket holes, just because I've never used it before, and with the tongue in the groove, it makes it hard to dowel into or put a biscuit into. So this pocket hole jig is pretty much the same one everybody gets, and it's got a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get it down, it's fantastic to use. Alright, so we're putting glue in each of the joints, and we're going to run some pocket hole screws in. Now these screws are nice because they're square heads, so you don't have to worry about stripping them out. And they've got a fairly coarse thread, so they go into the soft pine really well. Alright, now like I said, these are the rejects, so we need to fix all these splits. So I'm taking a 10 mil syringe, and I'm putting on a 20 gauge IV catheter without the needle in it. And I'm using that catheter to get inside the cracks and fill the cracks with wood glue. So once we get these filled, we're going to clamp it, and it's going to push the cracks together and let the glue do its thing.
Day 2.
Alright, so the next day, we are unclamping it, and all the splits held together fantastic. So we're gonna cut the ends off nice and square. As you can see, they're uneven and all that. So I'm drawing a nice square line, and I think we're making the table 72 inches. So I'm cutting about 2 inches short because we're gonna be putting inch long or inch end pieces on both of the sides. So now it's time to make the frame, and I'm just running these through the planer. These are just 2x4s. They're the premium 2x4s, so they're a little bit nicer. But I want a nice flat surface to work with. And now I'm just cutting the two end pieces. These are going to be the short ends. And we're going to use pocket hole screws to join these together too. I just find that these pocket holes are a fantastic joint, and when you combine it with the glue, they're super strong. So we're gonna join up the table legs to the frame. And this is where it got really hard. The table legs are maple, and of course the 2x4s are soft, whatever they are, I don't even know. But drilling into that maple is really, really hard. You had to have a lot of force pushing back on the table leg for the screw to go in. And even with that, we broke like 3 screws. Now we decided to put some braces on each of the corners to give it a little bit more rigidity since the glue hasn't dried yet, and we're going to need to pick it up and put it on the table.
Day 3.
Now I'm putting some braces in. The tabletop hasn't been attached because I want it to be as flat as possible before you attach the tabletop. So I'm cutting the braces to the width of the frame. And we're going to use pocket hole screws, like before, and attach the braces to the frame. And I'm just marking kind of in thirds, I think, and this will just make it nice and even. So I'm running them in, and now we're cutting some more permanent braces to put in the corners, just to add to the rigidity of the table. And how we're doing this, we're just cutting 45s on both ends, and pre-drilling some holes. And we're going to put 4 screws into the sides, and then we're going to put one long 3-inch screw down the middle, and it'll penetrate into the table leg itself. And of course we're gluing it. Alright, so we're ready to attach the tabletop, and I'm using this piece of wood to pull the tabletop flat up against the frame. And we're just drilling some pocket holes and run the screws in. And we're going to do this all the way around the table. Alright, so it's time to flip the table, and we flip it, and I'm just going to microscopically look at the top just to make sure there's no cracks, nothing like that. And there were a few cracks we had to fill, so we just did the same technique of the IV catheter and putting some weight on it in addition to some cranking force. So now we're going to make those end pieces that I was talking about, and these are simply just a piece of pine, just like the tabletop, going the other direction. And I'm just using glue and finish nails to put them on. So once we do that, we're going to radius the ends. We started off using this kind of Japanese pullback saw, and that just took forever. So in the other ones, we used a jigsaw and just sanded to the line. And that worked just fine. They look fantastic. So now it's time to sand, and we're probably going to spend an entire day sanding. So I'm marking all the high spots and the parts I need to knock down. And then I'm going to use some 60 grit on the belt sander and knock that down. The important thing is you just got to keep moving with that belt sander, or else it'll dig in and you won't get an even table.
Day 4.
Alright, so it's time to stain the legs and the frame of the table. And our plan is we're going to stain the legs and the frame a dark, it doesn't have to be any particular stain, just so it's dark. I think this one's dark walnut. And once we get that stained, we're going to make up our own chalk paint using plaster and just regular white paint. And then we're going to sand off the paint and give it a nice rustic look. I've never done this before, and it was a little intimidating at first, but as you'll see, once I get sanding, it gives it a really nice distressed look like any farm table would have. So when you're sanding, we tried to focus just on the edges like a normal table would wear. So just the spots that stick out more than the others. So once we got that done, it's time for polyurethane. We're going to use a clear satin finish for this, and we're going to do about 5 or 6 coats. And we're applying the polyurethane using just no back and forth action. We're just doing one stroke, and this will keep from bubbles getting in, all that. And we're going to sand in between the coats. And we started off sanding with 220, and then when we got towards the final couple coats, we sand in between with 400 and 800. And the final coat we applied with steel wool, and that even more so gave a smooth surface. In fact, we probably could have used the steel wool the entire time instead of that foam brush. And next time I'm polyurethane something like this, I probably will use steel wool instead. And the steel wool is just the finest you can get. It's quadruple aught, I think. And it came out really nice, as you'll see in just a few seconds. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoyed making this and being able to share it with you guys. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you like it, throw a like in the video. And if you want to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.